Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back once again to another Fallout 4 settlement build. Today we're going to be back inside of our raider town that's located down inside Vault 88, and we're going to be checking out somewhat of a raider armory slash clothing store that goes by the name of the Raider Outlet. That being said, hopefully you guys enjoy what you see, and without further ado, let's go ahead and take a closer look. Alright guys, so really quick I just wanted to show you that instead of making a whole new build somewhere else, I've decided to actually make this one on top of the casino, and the reason it doesn't have that much detail on the outside is because I actually plan on adding a third story, and I think that's going to have some overhangs which will eventually end up just covering up most of the outside of today's build. Aside from this pretty much being a build on top of another, I think one more aspect that really sets it apart from a lot of the other things we've made is that the entrance is along the back side of the build, which I think gives it more of a slummy look. So you'll notice later on when we check out the inside, it's almost kind of run down looking and very cluttered. But back here you'll see it's got a very rickety looking staircase that goes all the way up, which I think really makes this build look a lot more lower class compared to even something like the casino. So as we come inside, you'll see we've got a lot of stuff that's just pretty much out on display. There's not really a whole lot of items that are still inside, say some kind of suitcase or really any means of storage. So I guess over here by the entrance, you'll see we have a couple mannequins. And once again, I really wanted to give this build a run-down look since it is sort of a back alley type of build. And that's why you're going to see a lot of clutter on the walls, which has pretty much just been done by throwing up a lot of old posters. Now keep in mind, this store is run by raiders and it's meant to be shopped at by raiders, so that's why a lot of the clothing here is more so rags and armor, rather than suits and, you know, your normal jackets and plaid shirts. So over here, this is maybe where the operators would shop. And then over to the left, we have a little zone for the disciples, even though they're pretty much all dead in my game. And I guess last but not least is the section for the pack. And of course, throughout the rest of the build, there's more generic type clothing for maybe your Raiders of the Commonwealth. And pretty much all of that type of clothing has been thrown onto shelves or various tables. Aside from posters on the walls, we also have a few signs, some mounted creatures, and even some little neon letters over near the power armor section. And as you can see, this just spells out the Raider Outlet. And really quick before we take a look at the owner's room or the power armor station, we'll go ahead and check out the counter, which is where all the purchasing would be done. And as you can see, there's some spare items for, say, crafting various armors or even just repairing some clothing. And then up above all that are some items that are about to be purchased, such as various pieces of armor and even a slave collar, since I'm sure a lot of these raiders might have slaves of their own. And then just to make things look a bit more realistic, I've also included some caps up there to make it seem like this purchase is still in the process of being completed. And then there's also a few more minor details like the bell and radio. Next up, we've got the crafting area, which once again is where the power armor is. So we have ourselves a little weapon workbench, along with quite a few supplies over on the right-hand side. And as for this area, I'd say that's pretty much it, minus a few other small details like a very odd-looking mannequin, and then just a few other light sources. Also in this area is something you might have seen when we were looking at it from down below, and this is just somewhat of a balcony, I guess. Really nothing too crazy, but I think not only from the inside but also the outside, it looks pretty unique from most of our other builds, considering they're pretty much all just closed in. Moving on, we'll go ahead and check out the owner's room, and along the way you'll see we've got a table with some random clothing and armor thrown on it, along with a Grognak the Barbarian comic book, which I'd assume may be the only comic that raiders would enjoy, considering it's a bit more barbaric. Now in here, this is the owner's room, and hopefully you can tell that he's somewhat of a druggie, and that's why there's just all kinds of chems scattered across his desk. along with quite a few even on the floor, which just so happened to be either in the cooler or even in the little tiny basket on the left-hand side. Also in here are quite a few more posters just to decorate the wall, and even some more storage space on the left, and that's in the form of a few lockers. And then moving on, this is just behind the counter, and back here there's a few more supplies, some more minor decorations like a fan, lantern, and even the clothing rack on the backside. But anyways guys, I'd say that's pretty much everything. I guess one thing to note is that I did have a previous version of this build where it was completely open without this wall here in the middle, but I think adding this in definitely gave it much more of a cramped feeling, which I think really fits the Raider style quite well. So that may be one thing you want to try doing on your own builds, should you try a Raider type look. But yeah, with all that being said, hopefully you guys did enjoy today's build. Make sure and let me know what you thought down in the comments, along with any ideas you may have for future builds. Keep in mind, I'm going to be adding a third story to this place, so any advice for what that build should be would be much appreciated. So yeah, thanks again for watching guys. Once again, hopefully you did enjoy the build, and as always, I will see you in the next one.